Welcome to Animated Tops and Flops, where we dive into the best and worst episodes of your favorite animated series. My name is Alyssa.
And my name is Janice. We are touring Springfield right now, and we would love for you to join us as we continue our talk about The Simpsons. Alyssa, what is our top today?
Hell yeah. So our top for this episode is going to be Season 4, Episode 17, titled Last Egg to Springfield, rated at a 9.0.
Yes, and our flop today is going to be Gump Roast, which is Season 13, Episode 17, and that was rated at a 5.4. Which I don't agree with, but we'll get to that later. I know. We'll get to that later. All
right. Yanis.
Yes.
Hit me with that synopsis of our top.
Oh, you know I got that synopsis. For those of you who haven't watched the episode in a very long time, or you just need a little recap, or you've never seen it at all, you will after I explain this. So, we open on a heavily guarded, evil soiree where the most addictive drug in the world has been created. McBain emerges from the ice statue, takes down the room, and bites into a cyanide peanut. The evil man laughs. And we then cut to Burns laughing at a worker in distress about to fall to his death. Smithers put the dental plan in front of Burns for renewal, which Burns plans to take away from the renewed benefits. Cut to the dentist office where we discover Lisa needs braces. Flashback to the strike of '88 where Homer explains how he got the scar on the back of his head where he was chanting, "Where's my burrito? Where's my burrito?" And cut to the union meeting where Carl is explaining the terms of the new union and they decide to strike. It is the same terms as last time, except they get a free keg every meeting if they give up their dental plan. Homer points out the flaw in this contract, and they decide to strike again. And they also make Homer the union president, because why the hell not? He brought up a great point, so he's president now. Burns tries to bribe Homer to drop the dental plan, but Homer takes it the wrong way that Burns is hitting on him. Meanwhile, Lisa is getting the affordable version of braces and is absolutely defeated and devastated. Burns kidnaps Homer with hired goons and tries to bribe Homer again, but Homer has to pee, and Burns takes it as resilience. Cut to Lisa singing at the plant strike for the dental plan. Burns tries to disturb the strike, but it fails horribly. Burns then shuts off the power of Springfield to retaliate. The workers gather together and sing their strike song in unison, and Burns is moved and his heart grew 3 times its size that day. A deal is made. The dental plan for Homer to resign as union president. Lisa gets her upgraded braces and all is well. The end.
Amazing synopsis as always, Janice.
Thank you. A production in and of itself.
It is, but it's nice in case, nobody's seen it or like maybe they haven't seen it in a while. It's nice to get like the in-depth details of it all.
Yeah, and you get most of them. I'd say like 80%.
Yeah. So this episode aired March 11th, 1993.
Tell us about the couch gag and the chalkboard gag.
Yeah. So the chalkboard gag is mud is not one of the 4 food groups. I don't get it. I don't think it's funny. It's an earlier season, so they probably didn't really think too much about it.
Yeah.
The couch gag is the couch turns into like a weird octopus and eats them. And it kind of reminded me of like, oh God, what are those things called in D&D where like there are chests, but they're not really chests, like a mimic? Oh yeah, so there's like a mimic.
I'm not a D&D girly. I am sad to admit because it sounds like something I would be totally into.
You'd
and
like
sounds
it.
like so much fun.
You'd like it. Anyway,
But
there's chests that are not real, and it's actually if you open it, it's a monster and it'll like eat you.
Oh, well, we love that.
It's a little tricky, trick. Before we get into like favorite things that have happened and such,
I have so many.
I'm going to tell you about the director and the writers.
Yes, please.
So the director of this episode is Mark Kirkland, who only ever really directed The Simpsons and the TV show Housebroken, which I think got canceled last year. And then the writers, there are two of them for this episode, is Jay Kogan, who wrote for Malcolm in the Middle, Frasier, George Lopez, Tracy Ullman Show, and Wallace Wolodansky, who wrote for the Tracy Ullman Show as well, but also for A Dog's Purpose and Monsters vs. Aliens.
Dang.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about your favorite moments of this episode.
Yes, but before I do that, I have to tell you about a very great trivia fact.
Do it.
Um, so side note, I'm obsessed with Anthony Hopkins, especially his online presence since COVID. He's just so delightful to watch, enjoy everything. I'm absolutely obsessed with everything that he does. Um, so to no avail. The producers try to get several celebrities to play the creepy orthodontist, including Anthony Hopkins and Clint Eastwood, but to no avail. Finally, Anthony Perkins agreed, but passed away before it happened. Anthony Perkins was really famous for Alfred Hitchcock and the
Mm.
Psycho 2, very big actor at the time. And Hank Azaria wound up playing the role. I think Hank did a wonderful job,
Yes.
as always. I mean,
Yes.
good job, Hank Azaria. Seriously. I mean, Jesus Christ, you're so freaking talented.
Right.
Uh, but Anthony Hopkins. Okay, if I'm gonna have a celebrity appearance, like sneak on in, I want to see Anthony Hopkins as a creepy dentist. I just, I think that would be so cool. I'm imagining it in my head. Anywho, favorite moments. One of the best opening moments is Ralph sitting in that dentist chair, being like, "I don't brush. I don't brush." Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to see the book?
Yeah.
um I love there are so many great quips in this too. Like when Homer is trying to explain to everybody at the union meeting why they should want the dental plan. He goes, "And that diamond in your tooth, Lenny." And he's like, "Oh yeah." Yoink. Someone takes a diamond from the tooth right away. Um I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity for Little Shop of Horrors with the orthodontist. I kind of expected that, especially with like The Simpsons having so many musical and like Broadway references, even in the early stages too, or the early seasons. I just expected a Little
Mm-hmm.
Shop of Horrors, you know, like little quip or something, but I didn't really see it.
Yeah.
Uh, Alyssa, what are some of your favorite moments from the episode?
Probably the "Where's my burrito?" Like, what are the fucking odds
Yeah.
that we get that again?
Yes.
It's such a wonderful callback, and every time and it's actually really random that we keep seeing it. Like, we're not watching like that many episodes, but so far it's been 3 that it's popped up in,
Mm-hmm.
and now I don't know what came first. Like, which episode came first with it? I don't know.
Right?
Um, I also like the idea that when we do like a flashback with Burns, that his grandpa was like, "Empty your pockets." He goes, "I see atoms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6." Like, you could just count them.
Yeah.
Uh, the orthodontist line of "Why must you turn my office into a house of lies?"
Yes.
with Ralph. Um, this moment is burned into my brain from childhood. The whole sequence of dental plan. Lisa needs braces. Dental
Dental
plan.
plan.
God, it goes on for so long.
It's so freaking funny though. I indulge. I love it. I think it's perfect. I think it's the exact amount of time that it should be. It's long, but I think it needs to be that long. It's so funny.
It's
It's great.
God. I'm just like, I remember it because it's like a trauma in my brain for it being so long, and just like the way that it's said and over again. It's fine though.
I really like the flat or the fantasy of Homer when he goes, organized crime. And
Yeah.
then he's just like, "Oh, Don Homer, I'm having trouble with my kids. Uh, eats the donut. Molto bene."
And he's like,
Yeah.
the the Burns quote, "Simpson, eh? New man?"
Oh my god.
Smithers is like, no, actually. And he
Because
like
that,
lists. That's where he like lists off all the things. He's like, his baby shot you. All this other stuff.
yeah, yeah. Oh God, and that's another callback, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love a good callback.
Oh yes. I have two more because there's too much good stuff in here. When the goons knock on the door and Homer goes, "Who is it?" And they're like, "Goons." He's like, "Goons?" They're like, "Hired goons." He's like, "Hired goons," and just opens the
Oh, it's perfect. Lisa's teeth simulation over time if she doesn't get
Oh
braces.
my
Oh
god.
my God, how horrifying.
I also retained that image in my brain from childhood because it was just so aggressive.
It was very aggressive. I mean, the orthodontist was very extreme.
So extreme, especially the book that he's showing Ralph that you're talking about. Like, I
Yes.
remember that too, and I remember thinking, man, I should maybe brush my teeth more. Like, this is kind of scary.
Yes. Yes. Oh, so freaking
Not
funny.
that I didn't not brush my teeth, but this episode
But
came out what, 93? I probably watched it when I was like 6 or 7 or something. So it's like
yeah,
I'm a kid. Meh.
I know. And back then it's like, I don't floss. I don't floss. It's like,
I know. I just started flossing like 2 years ago, like
good for you,
regularly. I
girl.
know, but it's definitely I don't know, man. Flossing is a whole thing.
It really is.
The last thing I have is when Burns is reading the work from one of the monkeys' typewriter, and he was like, "It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times."
Yes.
And that really felt like very Futurama to me.
It did. Yes, it did. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
And I remember for a while I would say blurst. I'm like, this is a blurst.
Yeah. I love how Marge was like, Homer, we're so proud of you, Union President. That's amazing. And he starts like describing some of the things about the people at work. And he's like, yeah, they rub my head and they pinch my belly to hear my girlish laugh. And she's like, I don't think they really like you at all, Homer. And he was like, okay, first thing I'm going to do tomorrow is punch Lenny in the back of the head. Cut to him punching Lenny in the back of the head and then nothing of it the rest of the time. Like, literally not another word of that.
There's something so special about a very random comedic moment that leads nowhere and is
Oh,
so fast. It is like, mwah.
and Grandpa sitting in Burns's office trying to like
Oh
help
my
with the
god,
de-escalation of the
that goes
mob
on
and the
for
strike.
so long too.
So funny. And then they're just giving each other that look of like
I know, especially Burns. I'm like, listen, buddy,
ah.
you're way older than Grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny.
Oh my god.
God, this episode just has so many great one-liners. I mean, even though it's technically two plot with Lisa's braces and Homer, debatable though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was fan freaking tastic.
Mm-hmm. I'd
The
say
make
I'd say the it's not a B plot. It's like an A. There they go again. It's like
Yep.
an 8.2 plot or
Yeah.
like eight and a half plot or something.
Yeah. I could have done without the McBain thing in the beginning, but maybe they just needed to fill time.
Kind of like an itchy and scratchy situation.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of appreciate like the pop culture of Springfield.
Yeah.
You know? It's cool. It just builds the world, so.
I like seeing McBain.
Yeah. Very Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque.
Yes. Also,
Yeah.
like always so very silly and so dumb, but it's because you don't see him that often doing his thing. So he's like a Troy McClure. So like whenever you see him, we're like, oh,
Exactly. It's a treat.
it's a little treat.
It's a little treat. Okay, Alyssa. So, what would you final thoughts on this? How would you rate this? This was rated at a 9 originally.
Yes. However, it was chosen for the #1 spot on Entertainment Weekly's list of the 25 greatest Simpsons episodes in 2003.
No way.
Yeah, so it was up there. So it actually went down because it was at a 9.1.
Yeah.
Well, I guess according to Entertainment Weekly, it was like a 10.0, but on IMDb, it was a 9.1 at some point, and it actually went down to a 9.0, which I think is interesting.
Yes.
God, this episode's so interesting. Apparently, like, did you know that like universities study this episode?
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
The episode has become study material for sociology courses at University of California, Berkeley, where it is used to examine issues of the production and reception of cultural objects, in this case, a cartoon show, and to figure out what it is trying to tell audiences about aspects primarily of American society and, to a lesser extent, about other societies.
What do you think? How do you think that relates to. Okay, sorry. How do you think this episode relates to society and what it's trying to tell us about American culture?
Yeah, well, clearly that the fact that we have to pay for healthcare, that it costs so much money that families can't afford to like take care of their children unless they fight their employers for it. Like that's insane. So
Yeah.
countries like Denmark who have universal healthcare, like it's laughable. And I can only imagine that countries that like don't have to have this kind of insurance situation with healthcare, they look at this and they go like, I don't understand. Like it's probably not that expensive, but in reality, if you don't have health insurance, it's like thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And the fact that we have to unionize too for that,
Ugh.
that we have to gather together as workers and fight the employer.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Are there unions in countries like other countries? Is that like a thing?
I
Or
think
is
let's do a quick Google to make
Google
ourselves
that?
look
Google
smart.
that.
Are unions a thing in other countries? Notably, the Nordic countries make up 5 of the top 6 most unionized countries,
Hey,
with Iceland in first place, being followed by Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Norway. And guess what?
they're
All of
all
those freaking
universal
countries
healthcare.
have universal health care, and on top of that, they have criminal reformation programs
Mm-hmm.
to help you not be a criminal anymore. Like,
Also, I'm 99% sure all of those places were listed in the top 5 of like best places to live in the world. I know that
yes,
recently Iceland was voted #1.
I think Norway has that spot now. Norway,
It's like,
yeah,
take
I
me
know. Take me, Norway. Take me on a Viking ship.
All right, this is turning into a porn cast.
Oh
No, don't make that sound.
no, no,
uh,
podcast.
anyway, Janice, how would you rate this episode? We went off on a tangent there.
Yes, I would rate this a 9.5 because it's super unique. I really love all of the callbacks, and there are so many quotable lines in here and so many memorable moments.
Mhm.
And just the fact that, like, I love the Whoville bit where,
Yeah.
you know, Burns is leaning over and listening to the people sing, and, his heart grows and he's like, okay, you could have your dental plan. And that is kind of symbolic, though, of like what we go through
Mm-hmm.
in the US. It's very reflective, I guess.
Very, very reflective.
I'd say a bit less so now, though. I feel like a lot of corporations have lost some humanity. I can't speak for all corporations, but I feel like a lot of them have. And I feel like they just don't care anymore.
They don't.
But that's another.
It's all about money to them.
Yes, it's all about their stakeholders and their shareholders and this and that. Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Anywho.
That's for a different podcast for us to be
Exactly.
Angry.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts?
Yes, I do have a couple of final thoughts. My thoughts include. You know what? Maybe they didn't include anything. I said exactly how I felt.
Amazing.
Yeah, I have no notes. That's exactly how I felt.
Beautiful. Then let's move
Right.
on to our flop.
Yes. Okay. Wait, Alyssa, did you rate it?
Did I
Alyssa,
rate it or did
Alyssa, what are your final thoughts on this? What are your final thoughts?
I didn't rate it. You're right. I just kind of went off on a tangent. I would keep it at a 9, I think. Because
Interesting.
it makes me like sad and angry.
Aww.
Because like that is what we Americans have to deal with, and it's frustrating, and the humor in it is lovely and wonderful, but it still doesn't diminish the fact that, yeah, I'm being repressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a little sad for me.
I get that.
Yeah,
I respect your rating.
thank you. I was almost going to
Uh,
give it a lower rating.
oh,
And
wow.
then as we were talking about it, I'm like, no, you're right. You're right.
I mean, the jokes for me just kind of overpower
It was
the
what am
uni,
I trying to say? It was
the uni
written
troubles.
well.
It was written very well. I was very distracted by all of the jokes and quips and like references and things that it made the reality a bit less sad.
Yes. Yes.
But it
Yes.
is still sad.
It is still sad.
Yeah. We are repressed.
We are so repressed. Save us. Save us, Norway.
Save us, Norway. Take us on your Viking ship.
Take us
Please.
on your ship
Take us away.
from here.
Okay, shall we move on to our flop?
Lurts.
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 Perfs. Grurts. That's enough of that. Uh, so this episode was rated at a 5.4. This is season 13, episode 17, Gump Roast. And I'm sure you can infer from the name that, yes, this did indeed parody a little bit Forrest Gump, at least to set us off.
That's why it's called Gump.
Yes, it was a bit of a stretch, but I get why they used it. They were like, it is what it is, another clip show. But
Yeah.
at least this one, I will say before we dig in, because I don't really have much for a synopsis, it was a clip show. So for those of you who haven't watched the episode or haven't seen it in a very long time, you will enough by the time I'm done with this. So the synopsis: we open with Homer on a bench with a box of chocolates. Wonder where we've seen that before. Where Homer is nearly busted for impersonating a movie character, which is apparently illegal, according to Chief Wiggum. Wiggum takes interest in Homer's story that he just starts to talk about, and he's like, "Oh, I'm interested. Yeah, and these chocolates are great. Tell me more. Tell me more." So it's all about Homer's life story. And we have a ton of great flashbacks of clips and, up until when Homer meets Marge, and Marge then comes to pick him up from said bench. Don't know why he was waiting there in the first place. But got the kids in tow, and they're taking him to a surprise. Well, the surprise happens to be a roast for Homer at the Friars Club. Kane and Konos end up crashing the party, interrupting Ned and Reverend Lovejoy's interrupting Ned Flanders and Reverend Lovejoy's bit to probe Homer to see if the human race is worth keeping around in the universe. To save humanity, Lisa thinks to put the probe on Maggie, because clearly the innocence of a child will save humanity, which it does. And Kane and Konos attend the People's Choice Awards in exchange for leaving Earth alone. The end. I mean, that's the plot. And it's filled with a bunch of clips.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What were some of your favorite clips that were shown in here? Or actually, do we want to start with the couch gag and the...
Yeah. Let's start with the directors, writers, and go into the couch gag, and then
Yes. Great. Alyssa, can you please
Yeah.
tell us about the writers and directors
yes,
of this episode?
this is gonna shock you. Shock. The director of this episode is Mark Kirkland. However, it was the supervising director of this was Jim Reardon. And I'm disappointed in him.
Our boy Jim.
Our boy Jim.
That's your
Listen,
second husband, Jim.
That's our second husband, Jim, after Conan. I am thinking, like, he was like, I will, assist you if I can, Mark Kirkland, but this is your episode, and so there's only so much Jim could do.
Yes.
That's what I'm hoping happened.
And we do know that from, trivia facts of previous episodes, that Fox did say you have to do clip shows to reduce costs and yada, yada, yada. So, like, they tried to do as much as they could with them.
Yeah.
So we have to give them some grace. It was a producer's decision, not an executive decision. It wasn't, the creative decision, which,
Which
as we know, bah, bah, bah.
leads us to the writers.
Yes.
There are 2 writers on this episode. The first is Deb Lacusta. It's Lacusta or Lacusta, who wrote for The Simpsons and The Tracy Ullman Show. A lot of Tracy Ullman shows in there.
Oh, very nice.
And Dan Castellaneta, who voiced
Dan.
Homer, I was like, he wrote this?
That's actually fun.
I know.
Good for
Because
Dan.
the writer's probably like, I don't want to write this fucking show. And he's like, no, I'll take a whack at it.
I mean, probably, right?
Yeah. This episode aired April 21st, 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no chalkboard gag. Janice, there was no chalkboard gag.
There was no chalkboard gag.
There was not. There was a couch gag, though. And it was
Yes.
The Simpsons as a slot machine. That was it.
Yes. It won the jackpot.
And it won the jackpot. Very simple, very... But let's get into things we liked about this flop. Janice.
Okay, Agnes was wearing Jennifer Lopez's dress that she wore to
Yes.
the Grammys in 2000, and I immediately recognized that. I was like, I know this dress. I know this dress.
Yes. Agnes was popping off this episode.
She really was. She was actually really funny.
I
And I was
know.
like, why can't we get this version of Agnes instead of the crotchety, like, older mother, like...
I know.
Yeah. I'd like to see more Agnes having fun. She's a hoot. She's a hoot and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I always appreciate, and I will never be mad when a callback or a clip to Ned Flanders. It's like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Stupid sexy Flanders. That is something that lives in my head forever.
When I tell you, I wrote that down in all caps because I was so excited to see it again. I was like,
yes! I love that. Oh, I love that. I thought Maggie's first word was very cute. It was like a cute button to end the episode. However, the episode didn't end there. But, and then I appreciated the trio of laughs where you had Dr. Hibbert, the and then Nelson's and then Burns just going excellent. That was a really funny quip. Like, and they did that like 2 or 3 times. I thought it was hilarious. I love seeing High School Marge. She's a bombshell. I love seeing High School Marge. She's just she's got it all. And I love the clip of the kids distracting the neighbors while caroling while Homer goes and steals gifts. I was like, that's really fucking funny.
And they just get louder as he like breaks things.
Darth Vader's music would play when Burns went up to the podium, and I was like, perfect.
Classic.
Perfect. Yeah, and then Homer's line of these oh no, that wasn't Homer, that was Marge's line. I didn't really understand that line though. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
But yeah, Homer being like, oh, what kind of these jokes are at my expense. What kind of a roast is this? I thought that was great. Alyssa, what are some of your favorite moments from this episode? One-liners, give it all.
I think having the premise and the central theme be a roast, I think that was like smart.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed
to
the
clever.
As opposed to the other clip show that we had on our flops, which was just like Marge is telling a story. You can definitely get a lot more clips out of like a roast where they're showing clips because it's like they're showing clips.
Yeah, it's memories.
And so yeah, that was this was definitely a better episode than the other ones. But
yeah,
with that, we got a lot of like different people, which was amazing. Specifically when Moe, dressed as Austin Powers, gets thrown into the back of the trunk with Dr. Hibbert there, dressed as Darth Vader. And he just goes, Luke, I'm your father. And just so deflated, Moe goes, Shagadelic. And it's so depressing, but he's like, I guess I'll stay in character.
Yeah.
And then...
sorry, not to interrupt,
No.
but Dr. Hibbert then magically made it to the roast after being in jail.
I mean, he's a doctor. I'm sure he was like, listen, I'm a doctor. And they're like, okay, yeah, you're right.
I'm going to pay my bail, right?
Mm-hmm. He's like, if you don't let me out, everyone's going to die.
I just noticed that, though, and I was like, ooh, wait, plot hole? Damn.
Wow. In The
Dan.
Simpsons, never
Never.
would.
In a cartoon? Who would?
What? I only have one other thing that I like really liked that like wasn't a clip show moment because like obviously like the clip shows there's moments like you had mentioned that were really funny but those are their own episodes and so it's like yeah I liked those clips but the episode itself is like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Um my favorite line is when Burns is talking about how Homer's a horrible employee and everyone's laughing and he's like I'm serious and they're dying laughing and he says something like all of this nincompoopery and we just cut to Carl and he goes poop and like my 5-year-old self was like yes I agree because before it turned to Carl and he laughed and said poop I went poopery.
I
So
love
I
that.
felt seen in that moment, and it was nice. That's all like the fun facts that I really had in this episode.
Yeah, and I do agree with what you said that this was a much smarter way to put a clip episode together than the Marge and Homer like cheating on each other ish
Yeah,
almost. Like that just like I don't know. This was tasteful. It was tasteful. It was fun. They did what they had to do
yeah,
with the clips and everything. I would rate this higher than that.
I would too. Yeah, I would too. Speaking of tasteful, this is the last clip show ever.
Oh,
Yeah.
very interesting.
So instead, I guess they like instead of doing clip shows, they opted instead to create non-canon anthology episodes. So like one of them is Tales from the Public Domain, where Lisa's Joan of Arc. One of them is like Magical History Tour, where it's like 3 tales of history lessons. So in those episodes where like they go back in time or something like that, like those take over the clip show episodes,
Oh, interesting.
which makes me think about Moe's Stupid Rag. I think that's technically a clip show episode because it
I would say that's a clip
right
show episode.
because it's like the
Yeah.
same thing. It's like an anthology.
But there's more, I feel like there's more plot than clips though.
There is, yes, because
So,
they don't have to necessarily use plot at all. They can just use something from history and then be like, let's Simpsonify it.
right. Um, Here's an interesting fact. Maggie's first word was originally voiced by Elizabeth Taylor, but is
Hmm.
now voiced by Nancy Cartwright.
Do you know why?
Why? Tell us why.
It's juicy.
Was she being a diva? Was she tearing it up?
So,
Tell
like,
us all.
okay, so it was really nobody's fault. I feel like this was just a bad casting choice. We love
Mm.
Elizabeth Taylor. However,
Oh, yes.
her voice was too sexy. And so during this one line reading where all she says is daddy, they had to like do it so many times because she kept doing it like too sexy. And they're like, you need to be a baby. And I guess after this entire session of her just saying daddy over and over again was done, she said, fuck you to Matt Groening. And she didn't come back.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, however, though, good for them because to fire Elizabeth Taylor would be freaking awkward as hell. I
I
mean, she's a
know.
legend, but a sexy baby is not appropriate. Like, I'm sorry, it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate, even for a cartoon, even for The Simpsons. A sexy baby is not it.
Oh, God. I just think that's so fucking funny. And I mean, unless they were planning on having Maggie talk a lot throughout the rest of the series, I
Right.
feel like having Elizabeth Taylor voice Maggie was unnecessary in the first place.
Yeah, and I like the game that they play too with not voicing Maggie. Like
Hmm.
that's fun.
Yeah. And then
It's kind of
when
fun.
they do voice her, it's like 1 or 2 words or something like that. And like all we need is like a Nancy Cartwright just to like throw in a little oomph. Because it does
Yeah.
sound like a very like girlish tiny Bart almost. And
Yeah,
that's nice because, it's their family. So it makes sense that they kind of sound alike.
exactly. That's more appropriate, I'd say.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Those are all the fun facts I have.
Oh, amazing. Okay. I think that's all the fun facts that I have on that.
Cool. What would you rate it?
I would rate this higher than the other clip show.
What
The
was the other
the
clip show?
Marge one that we talked
Here,
about.
let me see. Not another Simpsons clip show. Another. It's a 5.8.
Yeah, like I don't get why this one was rated so low. I mean, I will say like I'm not the biggest fan of Kane and Kodos when they like come in.
I'm not really either.
they're kind of like to me. I think there was so much more that could have been done with them
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not a fan. I don't care for them too much.
The only time I really like them is when we just get like a little bit of them as we zoom out from Earth and they're just like sitting there in their spaceship, and it's just like them. They remind me of the old man Muppets that sit like in the back of the theater,
Yes. Oh,
and like
that's such a good
I
analogy.
love those moments because it's just so funny and it feels like that. But when they're like a part of an episode like that, I'm like, eh.
That is a brilliant analogy. I love that. That's so accurate.
Anyway, what else? What else? What else? What would you rate it at? So the other one's a 5.8.
I
If you
would
want to
rate
rate it
it
higher.
a 5.9.
Ooh, just like
If
right above
it's
it.
yeah, right above it. I mean,
Okay.
it's a clip show, so I don't think it deserves like. I mean, it could go for a 6. Sure, I'd even say 6. Get it out of the red, but
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be higher than that per se. But I don't think that this deserves to be lower than like Boys a Bummer.
God no. I love having this ratings thing up so I can see. Boys of Bummer is a 5.9.
Oh, that was lower than this one.
It is not. It is higher than this one.
Wait, you said a 5 point nothing
9.
or oh, I thought you said a 5 point nothing. I was like,
Oh
oh,
no,
5.0? That's
5.9.
5.9.
No,
Yeah.
this is our lowest rated so far that we're reviewing.
Yeah, I don't think this deserves to be that low. I put it at 6 or 6.2 even.
I would agree with you 100%. Because
Yeah.
they're good clips. They found good clips.
They're very
And
good clips.
they know that they're good clips because they can just pick whatever clips they wanted because they don't have really have a premise to follow, which worked in their advantage this time. And also, nincompoopery. They won me over on that just one little bit.
Boop.
Boop.
You can win Alyssa over with boop.
I'm easy.
We love it. Do you have any final thoughts on this?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good send off for the last clip show.
Yeah. Yeah. And was this the last episode of the season? 17?
17.
I think there was one
go
after
to
that.
22. There are 22 episodes, yeah, so there are a few left. Oh my god, the frying game. Wait, are we doing that one?
The frying game?
Damn it. We're
That
not.
is not on our list.
That's the one with that woman. I only remember it from the screen grab here, but it's like Marge and Homer are the like butler and maid for this old lady who dies, who gets like stabbed in the back. Do you remember this episode?
I don't think I do. It sounds I remember them being butler and maid together. I don't remember. Oh, yes. Homer hides underneath the table of like some banquet and like witnesses the murder and they like become their maid and butler, right? Or am I thinking of a different
I
one?
think that's a different one because this one says Homer and Marge find themselves on death row after they are framed for murder.
I don't know if I remember that one.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Ooh, this season has the sweetest Apu in it, which is an Apu heavy episode.
Yes, I love that episode. I think that's the one where he tries to win Manjula over for Valentine's Day, and I really like that episode. I think it's really sweet.
Okay. Let's close this sucker out.
Let's do it. As always, thank you so much for listening to Animated Tops and Flops. My name is Janice.
My name is Alyssa.
And if you agree or disagree with the ratings, with anything that we've said, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to know your opinions. What is your favorite episode? What do you think should be up here that isn't up here yet? Is your bracket busted? Check our Instagram. We try to keep up to date on that. We have some surprising ones moving to the semifinals. So we do have a listener's choice option. If you think an episode and are very passionate about this episode deserves to be up there, more Sexy Flanders, then please let us know. We'll put it up there and we'll fight it against the rest of the top episodes. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe, follow on Instagram for updates and all fun things, animated tops and flops.
Yes, and if you stick around next week, you get to hear our top, which is going to be Treehouse of Horror 5, our first Treehouse episode in the tops. Well, there wasn't one in the flops, so the first one ever.
I'm so excited.
It'll be season 6, episode 6, rated at a 9.2, so she is high up there. And then our flop, which is going to be The Musk Who Fell to Earth, season 26, episode 12, rated at a 5.4. So it will be an interesting contrast for sure.
Absolutely. As always, thank you for listening, and smell you later.